Good morning, students. I'm back again with Bacon, and today we are going to discuss Bacon as an essayist. We are going to evaluate Bacon's art of essay writing, and this note is based on Huff Walker's evaluation of essayists, and the chapter from which I am going to discuss with you is titled as The Aphoristic Essays. Bacon was extraordinarily discursive in his interest. He took all his knowledge for his province, and while several contemporaries surpassed him in depth of insight into subjects which he had specially studied, few in any age have rivaled him in the capacity of utter pregnant thoughts on almost any theme. Pregnant thoughts, that is most important, because earlier also I have talked and discussed about the condensed thoughts of Bacon. Bacon was superior in encyclopedic range of mind. Bacon was thrifty of his thoughts and his literary material. The mass of papers which he left proves his extraordinary diligence and the care with which he lived his wisdom. He not only lived with his wisdom, but at the same time, he has tried to convey that wisdom, that practical wisdom, to his audience or to his readers. Bacon was an ambitious English lawyer and statesman with one eye fixed upon the pole star of philosophic truth and the other watching the political weathercock. He speaks of his essays as dispersed meditations. No volume of prose in the English language has furnished so many popular quotations as Bacon's. As I told you, that his sayings have gone into the public as often quoted words or often quoted sayings. He speaks of them as of the best fruits that by the good increase which God gives to my pen and labors could yield. In the early essays, the sentences are nearly all short, crisp, sententious. There are few connectives. Each sentence stands by itself. The concentrated expression of weighty thought. But this is not because Bacon's imagination was not yet developed, not because he could not have written in the richer and smoother style of later days had he chosen to do so. It is because at this period the essay was to him literally and precisely an attempt. Essay was an attempt at a subject, and that is why he has written on studies, he has written on death, he has written on love, he has written on travel and many more subjects. Essays such as those of studies are something of the nature of that running analysis of paragraphs which is occasionally printed on the margin of the books. When therefore it is said that each sentence of Bacon's contains matter for a paragraph of an ordinary writer, the statement is true, because his thoughts, his ideas are pregnant with thoughts. Bacon finds room for conjunctions and connective clauses. He does more, he imports warmth and color to the style. His keen sense of analogy enables him to discover illustrations everywhere. From food, for example, from the military, which we have discussed in our earlier discussions. Metaphors and similes are frequent, and sometimes, though not very often, they have a poetical quality. It is heaven upon earth to have a man's mind more in charity, rest in providence, and turn upon the poles of truth. This is the quotation from Of Truth. The general conception of the essay is still perceived and preserved. The subject is still treated incompletely. The essays are loose thoughts thrown out with much regularity. Bacon is too stately and his thought is too profound to permit us to speak of the essays as the confidential chat of a great philosopher. So we find in Bacon a great philosopher who can condense his thoughts, who can very precisely and in a very brief sentence can convey a very, very thoughtful idea. Again, I begin. Here, Bacon is too stately and his thought is too profound to permit us to speak of the essays as the confidential chat of a great philosopher. But in them, he comes as near that as his nature would permit. In Bacon, the subject always is important, and however unsystematic he may be in his treatment sometimes, he never wanders beyond its bounds. He knows his limitations, he knows his boundaries very well, perfectly. Masks and triumphs are toys, but they are discussed at nearly as great length and with as strict adherence to the theme as truth or travel or studies for that matter. Bacon was a moralist and a politician. Yes, he was wise, astute man, and that astuteness and wisdom is very candidly reflected in his essays. Not only a politician, but in large proportion, including many of the most interesting of the essays, they deal with ethical qualities of man or with matters pertaining to the day-to-day affairs of the state. His purely scientific interests make but little show of him. As a moralist, Bacon makes no pretenses to the system. He undertook to inquire into the essential principles of justice, believing that the investigation, though difficult, was by no means hopeless. The essays seem to be the work of an opportunist also, and Bacon has been often accused of his opportunism, whereas we call him, some of the critics have accused him of opportunism, but we would call it practical wisdom. And that is why he advises people to, as we have seen in his essay on travel, advises people to be very, very practical in their approach. Or when it comes to studies, again he gives a practical advice and asks us either to read mathematics or whether to read histories, and how these studies help us. The essays seem to be the work of an opportunist. Bacon admires truth. He admires moral as well as intellectualism. Clear and round dealing is the honor of man's nature, he says. But then falsehoodness is like alloy in gold and silver, which though it debases the metal, makes it work the better. A careful and candid reading of his essays will show that Bacon's morality is higher than that of an average humanity, and perhaps as high as is easily practicable in work-a-day world. On the whole, Bacon gives the impression of singular aloofness from moral considerations. His maxims are prudentials. Maxims, his sayings. They have gone into the world as proverbs. He appears to be looking down with absolute dispassionateness from a height and determining what course of conduct pays best. He condemns cunning not as a thing loathsome and vile, but as a thing unwise. So the accusations of cunningness are baseless. He is a practical man, a man of practical wisdom, and that is why he asks us to be very, 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 very practical in adopting things. The new style of Bacon fitted itself as easily to buildings and gardens, or to suitors and ceremonies, as to truth and death and studies and travel. It could sink into the familiarity of likening money to muck, not good unless it be spread, or rise to a comparison between the movements of the human mind and the movements of the heavenly bodies. That's all. Thank you.